I'm now with Creative England. I used to be with Yorkshire Forward for many, many years, so it's really nice to be back in York and actually to see this as a reality, having seen it for 4 or 5 years as plans and funding applications and those kind of things. So it's always great to go back to those sort of projects you've known about and lived with for many, many years. So it's a pleasure to be here. But the only thing certain in life is death and taxes. So I'm now waiting for Creative England because the RDA network has gone, as you know. But actually what we're doing is kind of providing a legacy to the RDA network and the investment in the organisations around the screen and creative industries. We're a new organisation, we're a start-up, we're a not-for-profit company, but we've got government support in terms of being given a mandate to support creative industries across England as a whole. We've inherited offices in Bristol, Birmingham and Salford, but we have people spread across England as a whole, working very flexibly and in various sort of mobile applications. And as I said, predominantly we manage the legacy of what was the Screen Agency programme. Now in Yorkshire, I have to say you're very, very lucky, because you not only have the legacy of the programme, but you have a live programme as well. And Andrew's going to talk a bit more about that later on, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. But in the rest of England, pretty much the Screen Agencies and the work that they did is completely gone. So we are all that's left in terms of that sort of legacy. We're an organisation of complete geeks. We love what we do. We're active in film and TV and games. We support things like festivals. We support talent development. I've got colleagues at the Children's Media Festival in Sheffield today. We're at DocFest in Sheffield as well, a couple of weeks ago. What we've also got now as an added sort of string to our bow is an investment programme. We bid last year to the Regional Growth Fund, the fund managed by Biz, as some of you be familiar with. And we bid for a £5 million investment programme to deliver content support cross-platform across England as a whole. And as Uday knows, we're developing a range of different partnerships to look to deploy that investment programme, but also doing some things on our own as well in terms of looking to deliver that programme out. And the key word there is investment, because we're not in the business of grant giving. All of the investment that we're looking to deploy has to be on some kind of financial return, but we're very, very open, we're very flexible about how that could be enacted. We're doing everything from interest-free loans, with holiday payments and so on, right the way through to equity investment in early-stage companies. And we're very open to talk to different organisations, partnerships, we're talking to the investment community, supply chain organisations, the BBC and Channel 4 and Sony, about how we could play a part and use some of that funding. We're looking to recycle it because we're really not certain where the future government funding is coming from in this area. So to try and create a legacy of our own, try to recycle those funds and then reinvest them in years to come. The target is around cross-platform. We're a firm believer that the sort of linear dimension that we've seen start to change is really only at the kind of cusp of that curve, the sort of curve that Uday put up right at the start of the day. So we're really looking at companies that are trying to exploit cross-platform opportunities. We're not necessarily, though, tied to what people might think of as cross-platform in a kind of broadcast or game sense. We're also looking at things like government services. We're talking to various local authorities and also talking to different NHS organisations as well. So the platform, if you like, that you're jumping across may not be traditional broadcast, web, TV, mobile sort of platform. It might be face-to-face, telephone, way of delivering services. So things like social care, healthcare programs as well. We're very interested in working with small companies, trying to support their access and their sort of first early stages into those kind of worlds. And we're very keen, and we're talking at length to the TSB about partnering with a number of their programs around things like healthcare and cross-platform convergence as well. And as I said, our funding is on an investment basis, but where we can partner with people like the TSB or other ERDF funds, where there's grant funding still around, we can clearly kind of de-risk things for the potential company as well, because you can have a mixed approach there. And we're always looking to mix and match what we do. Public policy. Well, I've been asked to just say a couple of things about my view of the world, I suppose. I suppose the problem at the moment is it's a very flat market. Nobody who's active at the moment in business needs to know that. It's very, very flat. Budgets are very tight. The ability to make any profit out of any business is very, very tough. Companies are kind of treading water, especially in this space, to stand still, really, in terms of trying to move on. So investment is very tough. A speaker at the Cambridge event said, and I absolutely love this, he said, the only way you'll get money out of a bank is to go in with a gun. And I kind of recognise that view. So if we can provide some funding at that early stage on very flexible terms that a bank isn't prepared to lend on, that's probably too risky for the investment community to come alongside, then that's the sort of space we want to occupy. And again, I don't want to kind of nick Uday's kind of piece, but that chasm that he talked about early on, that's absolutely the sort of sweet spot that we want to look to be active. There's a huge amount of consolidation and contraction going on in the market across, a whole range of different sectors. Support agencies that relied on government funding are struggling everywhere we go. Organisations at a city level, at a regional level, are really struggling for funding and are struggling to kind of find their place in the world. Grants are very scarce. They do exist. And again, we've got the TSB here, very active with different programmes. And the ERDF in a number of the English regions is still active and in some cases still open for business. Partnerships are absolutely vital. We're going to work in partnership in pretty much everything we do. There's a kind of strength in numbers context, but also I think for the private sector as well. The days where you could be active in any one of these different markets in your own right have gone. It's going to be far more open innovation model in the commercial sector as well, whether that's bringing in resource in terms of mobile, web expertise, TV expertise, gaming expertise to serve the kind of markets that I talked about in healthcare, government services and broadcast. Where there is public funding, there are being, organisations like ourselves are being driven ever more towards a commercial model. And again, that's kind of culturally, that's slightly difficult for some organisations to take, but it's an absolute, it's a kind of fact. It's where we are. And as a broadly, there's real pressure on publicly funded support in England as a whole. If you're lucky enough to be in Scotland or Wales and Northern Ireland, it's a slightly different story, but certainly for England, there's a real decline in publicly funded support. In terms of the market, well, cross-platform, cross-platform is not an add-on. I think for many years, and we were still, I used to work for a set-top box company in 1995, and we did web TV stuff with Microsoft, or web TV, and then Microsoft bought web TV. And it was, that's a really interesting thing, and we can kind of add that onto what we do. Now, and I think, and ever more so, it's going to become an absolute, ever-present necessity. If Antiques Roadshow feels the need to have an iPad app to run alongside their program, then I think just about everybody else will as well. And you can go and check that out. And they do have an iPad app that you can play along with Antiques Roadshow and bid along and guess what things are worth. So if they're doing it, for their target market, then I think many, many other people can. As I said, my view is it's a complementary service, not a duplicate service. So iPlayer, which I absolutely love, and I think it's a fantastic piece of technology that we're blessed to have in this country with the BBC, is ever more going to become a more complementary process. So we see programs like Hollyoaks, which have complementary programs around Twitter, on the web, the whole sort of second screen interface, so you're watching TV on one, you're doing something on another screen at the same time, you're engaging with the characters, it's producing a much more kind of rounded view of the program, it's driving traffic to the web, driving traffic to mobile. It's actually not this sort of first screen, second screen kind of dimension. That's really blurry. Don't believe the sort of locked-in content and device model. We're talking to Sony about where they take PlayStation as a brand. It's likely you're going to see PlayStation live, PlayStation content on a whole variety of different platforms, non-Sony platforms, which I think is really interesting. We've seen it in other worlds with the BBC and ITV kind of mixing and matching. And ultimately, I think we'll see, things like Office on iPad. I remember when Office was on Mac and it was the biggest selling piece of software you could buy from the Mac was an Office piece of Office software. Time switching, the idea of sitting down, watching the 9 o'clock news or watching the 10 o'clock news, showing my age a bit, watching the 10 o'clock news, watching a program at the same time is kind of gone, is going. In the context in terms of government services and healthcare, the move to sort of bring your own device and that, the relationship that has in terms of trying to develop a coherent range of service offerings, and in an area like healthcare, trying to provide a level process in terms of support and security, that has some whole challenges, I think, as well. And I was going to say wireless is king, but as it's a jubilee, I think we should be saying wireless is queen, because wireless is going everywhere. Wireless is just going to be completely ubiquitous. It's great, the announcements in terms of fibre broadband taking place like North Yorkshire, but wireless is the way it's going, both in terms of domestic market, business market, but also government services as well. And wish list, well, we're very much open to talking to partner organisations, both whether they're public organisations, privately, or a mixture of all, or both of those, in terms of partnership development and in terms of project funding. We're looking individually for small companies, developing market opportunities, and we're still testing the water a little bit. I've been in the job 2 months now, so we're still testing the water in terms of, okay, what kind of things would work well? Where's the appetite for this? We're looking for co-investment models. It's unlikely we'll invest solely in anything ourselves. And looking for routes to market. And last but not least, we're members of something called the European Creative Industries Alliance. And a colleague of mine is in Spain today at Clusters 2020 talking about similar national organisations. So that's really my wish list for today.
Right. Thank you.
And that's all right.